Hey there, what I want to show you in this video is how to make sort of a vintage look for your photographs. Alright, so how we're going to go about doing that is starting by adding a black and white adjustment layer, just like so. And you can click on the target adjust, which is this finger there, and then if you want to make any modifications to the black and white, you can kind of click and drag one way or the other, and you notice how the appropriate color on these panels adjusts. So this yellow stripe, if I click and drag, I can darken it or lighten it as needed. So you can kind of play around with your darkness and lightness to get a nice one that you're happy with. And then what you're going to do is go back to your background layer and hit Control J, and that does a copy of your background. And why don't we go ahead and name that color, all right, because that's what we're going to use to bring our color back. Alternatively, you can right click and duplicate that layer too. Alright, so that's another way to go about it. Then you're going to grab that layer, hold it down, and bring it to the top of your stack, just like that. And then turn your blending mode into soft light. Alright, and so there you have it. You have this sort of muted vintage kind of look with the colors sort of have a vintage effect to them. So this is looking really good. Let's add ourselves another layer. You can add yourself a new layer by going Control Shift and N, and brings up this new layer dialog box. And we're going to add, I'll call this one Burn and Dodge. We'll do some classic burning and dodging here. Turn the mode into a soft light, blending mode. Hit OK, and then you can grab your normal brush right here. I've got a pretty low opacity, about 26%, and if you'll see the size of my brush, it's fairly large and quite soft. And I'm going to click in and paint with white first. Paint over the door to lighten it up just a little bit, and maybe some other spots too, the feet and towel and whatnot. And then I'm going to hit X, which flips the black and white. You can also click on this arrow that flips black and white, and bring up my brush, and I'm going to just burn in certain areas just to darken it, burn in along the bottom. Burn in a bit of the white wall to bring that contrast down, just like that. Right, so there you have your before and your after. Right, so just a little bit of dodging and burning. All right, so now depending on the image that you're going to be working with, you have a few decisions you can make. If you want to bring a bit more color back in, one way to go back to your black and white layer and bring down the opacity. All right, so if you bring down the opacity of that layer, you can see that vintage look is lessened somewhat. All right, so that's one option for you. If you want to have even less color, you can go to that color layer and bring down the opacity of that one. So if I bring that down, you can see I have an even more muted. It almost looks like a hand-colored old black and white photograph. So there's a few options that you can play with depending on the image that you're working with. Another thing that often comes with sort of old photographs is a sort of a yellowy tinge to sort of mimic like old photographic paper. And to replicate that kind of thing, what you do is you go about grabbing yourself a color balance layer, and with that color balance layer, taking your yellows over like that, and on your midtones and maybe your highlights as well, just like that. All right, so then there you have more of a yellowy vintage look. So here's your before, and there's your after. All right. If you want to really strengthen that layer, you can duplicate that layer. Now that's really yellow. All right. If you can also experiment changing the blend mode of that to soft light. And here you've got this sort of very dramatic looking vintage look. I think that's a bit heavy-handed, so I'm going to drag that down and delete it. Leave it with that. So there you go. You have a vintage look with yellow tones and sort of a desaturated look using soft light. Give that a shot.